Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now, I suppose you're wondering what I am making right now and why it might seem quite out of the ordinary to you. But I felt like making it today, as a thought just occurred to me really. Who are the strongest Dragon Ball characters in 2022? It's been a while since we've discussed something similar on the channel, and there have been some developments from the manga as of late which have brought various factors into play. So I want to present to you what I think are the 15 strongest characters in the Dragon Ball universe as of now that are still around and kicking. Please note though, we are not including the divine beings here, as that would completely skew the results. So there's no Beerus or Whis here, since we know that they'd be near the top or at the top anyway. And if you include the GP or Zeno here, then what kind of fun is this gonna be then? It'd be so dull. Also no fusions, so no Kefla here I'm afraid. And hey, you can't always call upon Potara or doing the fusion dance correctly in a crisis, so no. So before we start, be sure to like, share and subscribe, as well as check out our latest shirt design, Hiffle Yeah! Link in the pinned comment. Cheers! Number 15, Bardock in the eyes of the writers. Okay, I'm joking. Only half joking though. No, number 15 really is the Pride Troopers as a collective. If you want to find yourself the best team that can get the job done as a unit, then the Pride Troopers are your best bet really. This group from Universe 11 are pretty much the ultimate band of fighters out there, especially that they are the best crop to pick from when considering their future destroyers of Universe 11. Since Belmont was once a trooper and now Toppo is in line to succeed him in the fullness of time. We aren't including Toppo or Jiren in this group since they're the top two and are rarely called out since they're usually reserved for the more serious of missions. And also, we want to give them their own slots too. But with their overall strengths, the Pride Troopers, plus the varied abilities such as Kokot's temporal containers, Kinesi's energy threads, which I really liked, and of course Dispo's super speed that would make Berta blush, you're pretty much covered. Besides, those kinds of powers are a lot more varied and interesting and useful than the Dragon Team Earthlings who basically just punch things real hard and use Solar Flare, charge their attacks, and watch Goku most of the day. Yeah, well, our lot's kind of dull in comparison. When was the last time you saw Ten Shinhan rescue a cat out of a tree? Never? Yeah, that's what I thought. Number 14, Kale. If she can maximize her Berserker form. Wait. What? Kale? Are you serious, Masako? Yes, indeed I am. This could easily be one of the more iffy selections on this list, but do hear me out. Kale has similar powers to Broly, but in a far less developed state. She's only just clocked on. She is at the beginning of her journey in discovering her green-haired power, and even then, she could go alongside Super Saiyan 2 Kefla. And when she made Kefla, woof, that was great, but remember, no fusions. Imagine what Kale could do if she kept training and managed to contain all of that latent power and use it to her own ends. It could easily raise her profile and make her considerably stronger than any Universe 6 Saiyan going. Even Kefla, and she's the poster child of Universe 6 Saiyans. It's also quite a touching story to see the shyest of the three Universe 6 Saiyans ending up being the strongest of all of them. You know what they say about the quiet ones. This quiet one here can easily be up there if she gets a handle on her latent Berserker powers, but they are there. If she doesn't, then okay, fine, she's out of the list, but she's here for now. Number 13, Android 17. Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? The winner of the Tournament of Power gets to be in the top 15, surely. Able to hold his own against Super Saiyan Blue Goku in quite the serious battle when they were scouting for new members of the team, plus able to adapt to any fighting environment that came their way, and the fact that 17 could never tire thanks to the Infinity Engine, really useful tool, you've got yourself a very worthy fighter for this kind of list. I bet you're wondering why I've not included 18 here, not even as a twofer. Where's she in the list? Well, yeah, sure, she's trained a little bit, but she's clearly not been doing as much training as her brother, who basically tackles massive beasts on Monster Island every single day, probably for years, to further improve his skill set without even knowing it. You need to be strong to keep those big beasties in check, otherwise you're going to wound up being eaten. Because of this daily grind, 17 is able to grind down most opponents and ultimately duke it out with the big boys, and thanks to the fact that nobody can sense his energy, since he's an android, be undetectable. That's a pretty potent combo. Number 12, OG73 Base. Wait, who's this again? I don't blame you for thinking this way, since we've barely seen this guy in the latest manga arc. And he was supposed to be the initial catalyst of it, but For those of you who don't recall him, or have not even read the manga, let's give you a brief refresher, because he's worth it. OG-73 is an android-based lifeform who is very strong, had worked with Moro after being released from the galactic prison, and is totally not a hit clone because, instead of skipping time, he can absorb up to 3 different people's power sets for up to 30 minutes per session. Mind you, that probably wouldn't help if he absorbed Hit's powers and then he would end up actually being a Hit clone, but that's not happened yet. And 30 minutes may not sound like much to you, but in a Dragon Ball battle, which usually lasts for about a third of that at max, really, that's like the equivalent of 6 Goku Frieza fights from the Namek saga. And besides, if you were in the tournament to power OG-73, that'd be more than enough time to make use of that technique. And you could just keep using it every single time. As long as you pick the right fighter for your cravings and you absorb their powers, OG-73 could have easily chewed through many people. Say for example if he managed to grab Jiren or Goku and copied their powers for half an hour, boom, game over. Shame he's been left forgotten, he's kind of interesting in a way, whilst also not being interesting. Kind of a weird paradox, wouldn't you say? Number 11, Merus. Hang on Masako, you said no angels! Merus isn't an angel anymore. In the manga, he was an angel, but since he chose to actively fight against Moro, against the GP's wishes, Merus got noped out of existence by the cosmos, and thusly had to spend the rest of his life not existing. That is until the GP showed up and forgave his own son for going against him, and thusly was revived, but as a mortal this time instead. So, he does count here since I'm going off of that basis now where he is currently in Dragon Ball Super. How much power has he lost in becoming an organic life form? Well, it's hard to say, but I imagine he has dropped considerably from where he once was, when he probably was stronger than Goku. But I am sure that the GP would want to ensure that any child of his, even though he's organic now, would not come to harm so easily. So I bet he could still be of use to the Dragon Team in some capacity, as well as being one of the linchpins of the Galactic Patrol. It's all up in the air really, since we probably won't see him again, or at least not for a very long time, maybe in a cameo appearance, but in a fighting capacity, don't think so. He was very powerful when he helped Goku out, but most likely has had that potential diminished in some way. But he was an angel, so that has to make him at least stronger than most folk out there in Universe 7, just now with a finite lifespan. Number 10, True Golden Frieza. Ah yes, True Golden Frieza. But am I really this low? Well, a lot of people have been training lately, and I can't imagine that Frieza has been doing much training recently since he's been basically avoiding the action deliberately since he got wasted by Broly. For now, I reckon he hasn't been training, and he's probably planning some other kind of scheme in the background. That being said, True Golden Frieza is nothing to be sniffed at. It came in clutch alongside Goku and the other Universe 7 lot. The plot device that most people reviled for a long time turned out to be really good and counted for something after all. With the stamina problem no longer an issue, Golden Frieza is a lot more reliable. So long as he's on your side, of course. It all now rests on what the Tyrant has been up to as of late. Has he been training again? Has he not? We don't know. But for now, he just about clings on to the top 10. Number 9, Gammas 1 and 2. Really? They haven't even come out yet. Trust us, we feel that it's possible for them to be in the top 10, just a little stronger than Golden Frieza at the moment, providing he hadn't trained. Based on the movie that we're about to get, Gamma 1 can at least go toe-to-toe with Gohan in his Super Saiyan and Ultimate powers. Gohan had been training, and was an equal to Golden Frieza in the Tournament of Power as well, only losing to Frieza since he was taking one for the team in taking out Dispo. Had it been a fair fight, it would have gone down to the wire most likely. But these Gammas being able to give Gohan and Piccolo some trouble in this movie, that's got to be something very important to consider. Not to mention the fact that the new incarnation of the Red Ribbon lot are using their own Wasp drones to keep an eye on the Dragon Team. How long have they been doing that in the shadows? Since Jiro's lot were taken out? Or maybe even longer? They could easily be aware of the presence of gods on Earth and thusly plan that power into their creations accordingly. It's a lot to consider. And also, if you look to our recent discussion on them, by the way up top, they're most likely going to end up being good guys when they realise that them wanting to be superheroes isn't exactly going to happen if they stay with the Red Ribbon Army. Yeah, we think they're going to stick around, so that's why they're here. Number 8, Ultimate Piccolo. Yes, shiny Piccolo. For ages we've been longing for the shiny Piccolo to gain some kind of special transformation to raise his profile and stakes in the grand scheme of modern day Dragon Ball. The last time he actually got a meaningful power boost was during the Cell Saga, when he fused with Kami. After that, it was down to, meditating, sleeping, and solid training with other characters. Well, that was it. Other characters were gaining transformations and techniques left, right, and center, as well as unlocking potential, fusing with others, but Big Green, he was kind of spinning his wheels almost, and acting more like a mentor rather than a fighter. Now though, things are starting to look up for him, and based on the visuals that we've gotten, and the look of that power-up, Piccolo has got the Gohan treatment from the Buu saga, only with no hair to make it clear that the bang is down here. Suffice to say though, this was a long time coming, and despite this transformation not being as obvious as you might hope for, it's something that we didn't expect. The thing we do expect is that this is the tool that can make the Pickle rise back to the best of the rest pile once more. Number 7. Ultimate Gohan. After years of being in the doldrums, Gohan is starting to gain some sense of understanding about what he wants to do with his life. The mood in early Super was that Gohan was struggling to figure out whether he wanted to help defend the Earth from any villains out there, or jack it all in and become a dad. There's nothing wrong with having that quandary or wanting one thing or the other, but the way that it was muddled with the writers and the way they were going about that plot thread, it just made it all the more wrenching and cringy when we saw it play out on screen. Clearly Gohan's lowest ebb. However, things seem to be changing. Gohan has been able to train more often than before, and gotten his ultimate powers back. And now that Pan is looking more than likely to want to become a fighter in later years, in some capacity at least, Gohan can purposefully start to get back into that wheelhouse again, since it's clear that his daughter wants to do that sort of thing too. Daddy-daughter time, sparring with each other. On top of that, Gohan is going to be the main force for good in this movie. That is if they don't bring Goku back in mind to take the win at the end. And if Gohan can remain Earth's current defender whilst his father and Vegeta tackle more galactic and universal perils out there, then Gohan has a place in the story, as well as purpose going for him. Neat. Number 6. Toppo. Come on folks, Toppo is a beefcake, a bear with massive, strong and comforting arms who can hurl around anything in his path. Granted, he did lose to Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta, but that came after multiple dominations prior. And also, Toppo is probably still training and learning to become the next God of Destruction for Universe 11. He's not resting on his laurels or going anywhere anytime soon. His sense for justice and leading the Pride Troopers is something to commend. And his personality is just so cool and awe-inspiring. And he looks so good in a suit. I think any candidate for the role of Destroyer that has Belmont's backing is predetermined to be close to the top of the list, wouldn't you say? Not much else to say, really. This big lug has a lot going for him in the future. Plus, when he's angry, he looks probably the most intimidating out of anybody else on this list. Save for the number 1 guy, perhaps. Number 5. Jiren. Of course, you can't have a strongest Dragon Ball character list without Jiren. The one who got many of the classic Z fans pumped. No complicated backstory, no touchy-watchy feelings and emotions, no. The only thing about his personality is that he wanted to attain absolute strength. That's all. Yes, he has learnt the importance of trust and friendship with others subsequently, but his core driving modus operandi has remained solid. To attain absolute strength, and now to protect his universe however he can. The manga version of Jiren was a lot better than the anime version, but that's not exactly a high barrier to leap over, really, since the anime version was a little devoid of character when you want to think about it. Has he trained since the tournament? Perhaps, but even if he hasn't done much, he is still up near the top on what he strove for alone, for decades after his very, very lackluster backstory. But people that like Jiren, they don't care about that. But for those who did care, check out our version of his backstory, which is a lot more inspirational. Number 4. Broly, when his power is maximum. How can we not have Broly here? Broly was already a big menace for Gogeta in his Super Saiyan Blue form without the additional training and tempering from Whis when he was going in raw. Stop it. And now he's getting just that in the latest Dragon Ball movie. Now training with Beerus and Whis, Broly is probably going to continue to develop, grow even stronger, enhance his versatility, and maybe more. And besides, his character is a lot more likable and endearing than the 1993 version, but that one is iconic too in other ways. If you can garner Super Saiyan God powers and then get blue, oh boy, he's going to be a massive factor in the future. Broly might not want that, and simply just want to control what he already has so he can live with inner peace. That leaves things a little bit ambiguous for now. But at least Broly's training more. Number 3, it's a twofer. Granolah and Gas. This one's a little controversial in that Granolah, and technically Gas, didn't gain their powers through legitimate means and training, but instead asking for them on a dragon, which has basically thrown the entirety of Dragon Ball's future and legacy into doubt. But the fact remains that these two are around. They exist, and they are the strongest since they wish to be so. So technically, they are number 3. We count Granolah here more than Gas though, since it's clear that Gas is going to bite the dust, and Granolah will survive for a little while longer, since he wished for his lifespan to be greatly diminished, so that means he could then have all the power and potential that he would have had in 147 years. They're here for now. And despite what you think, and whether they deserve it or not, they have that power, and are using it in some way in the manga. And they are giving Goku and Vegeta a lot of problems right now, and forcing those two Saiyans to adapt and evolve their own powers in some other way. Number 2, Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku. Goku isn't the strongest, Masako. Explain! It's true though. Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku is very powerful, but according to Whis, he is but at the beginning of harnessing this technique properly, and he could easily improve upon it with further study and refining. Already, he can now use Ultra Instinct facets and elements in other forms, and thusly make Super Saiyan more modular in approach than before. That's already some kind of purposeful evolution from just the standard Ultra Instinct on-off technique from the Tournament of Power. Simply put, Goku has now broken through a new ceiling of techniques and powers after having exhausted it with the standard Super Saiyan roster. More scope for Goku, yes, whether he deserves it or not, but that will take some time for him to improve upon. Also, he's the main character, so of course he's going to wind up stronger than Granolah and Gas at least, but maybe not quite as powerful in the heat of battle as Ultra Ego Vegeta at number 1. Think what you will about this form or technique or even its name or whatever, but I love it. This is the way to bring Vegeta's old raw passion from the early Z days of fighting back into play, whilst also keeping his more calm, mellow and settled personality on the daily. For him and Ultra Ego, there is a time and a place for everything, and in battle, when the chips are down, you can call upon this form of ultra power and basically thrive upon it. Vegeta loves to fight. He has the drive to keep going, and this technique is the perfect accompaniment for that prince. You can, in theory, never tire. You get stronger with every passing moment, no matter how injured you are, or you end up. You go mad with euphoria at the sight of beating your opponent, and if you want to take them down, couple that with that new desire to make use of that Saiyan pride, whatever that means, really. You will beat any baddie just through sheer brute force. You basically are just headbutting whatever you want, and you'll win, so long as you have no qualms in killing your foe. Ultra Ego is basically the ultimate Dragon Ball technique, but its only flaw? I can see it easily burning out and probably having a limit in the long run, but for now, when it's pretty brand new and limitless, it's very metal. So there it is. If you want to make your own list, do share it with us in the comments and subscribe for more content about Dragon Ball. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!